Well, welcome everyone. We're happy to have you here with us today for AAU's Summer Conversation Series on doctoral education. The Wheel Bazaar virtual series has been featuring cross-cutting topics that are important for improving doctoral education. And we really hope that this is a time where we can share ideas and innovations that are going on our campuses, learn from each other, and determine how we could maybe transpose these programs and initiatives and efforts to your own institutional context. In the spirit of that goal, we have titled this the Wheel Bazaar Virtual Series, Why Reinvent the Wheel When You Can Go Wheel Shopping? So we're happy to have you here with us today, and we look forward to your engagement. Today's program is in support of AAU's PhD Education Initiative, and this is an initiative in partnership with all of the AAU member campuses to have more student-centered doctoral education, where we're placing a greater emphasis on focus with individuals with diverse educational and professional interests and goals. And we really want to support the full range of career pathways for doctoral students. How do we think about making the full range of careers visible to the students, viable in that their program has prepared them for this full range of careers, and how is it valued in the culture of the department, within the institution, by fellow students, and by the larger community? We are in working with our pilot group of 8 campuses and 32 departments towards this goal. Cross-cutting themes emerged where our campuses wanted to have richer discussions and learn more from each other. And so the Wheel Bazaar and this summer conversation series was designed to give time and attention to these cross-cutting topics. And we're very excited today to have with us 3 colleagues from member campuses to talk about designing skill building and professional development courses for doctoral students, and really how to think about the design and the facilitation of these programs, how to think about their alignment with other activities and efforts going on within an institution or within a college or within a department. And they are each going to be profiling different programmatic efforts on their campus. We've structured the panel for them to have about 5 to 7 minutes to present about their initiatives and efforts. And then we are going to move to a period of time where we will have all the panelists address some cross-cutting questions. We would really like to ask your questions to the panelists. So please feel free, as you're hearing the remarks, to pose questions directly in the chat. Our team will be monitoring the chat and being able to present those questions to the panelists during our Q&A period. So without further ado, I'd like to turn the program over to our panelists so they can share with you their innovative work that they've been advancing on their campus. And I'm very pleased to have them with us today and for them to have an opportunity to share their work. So Ed, I turn the program over to you. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, in turn, I'd like to thank you, Emily, Tara, and Mira, the whole AAU team, for putting together the PhD initiative and this program this summer, which I've already benefited from and look forward to the sessions to come. I'm going to be speaking today about the Duke Graduate Academy, which we began about 4 years ago. And I realized I did not include my email address in the PowerPoint, so I'm just going to dump that into the chat right now in case people have questions that are not addressed in my presentation or in the Q&A or the breakouts. So the Graduate Academy emerged out of a wider dialogue about PhD education at Duke in 2017-18. We had a 18-month committee looking at PhD education. And as part of that, we did an inventory of available resources for PhD students. And we found that there was lots for PhD students to take advantage of within individual programs, first and foremost, at our graduate school, and also from a whole series of interdisciplinary units across campus. So lots of workshops, lots of seminar series, and so on. But we also identified gaps. Some of those gaps involved really important skills that had been highlighted in reports about PhD education in the sciences, in the social sciences and the humanities. Skills like collaboration, leadership, communication. We realized that we didn't have enough on offer there. And then we also saw a bit of a gap in terms of the right kind of on-ramps. We had lots of workshops and in some cases full courses, but nothing in between those two that could give students who are interested the ability to explore a new skill set or perspective and see whether maybe something like a full certificate program, which we have many on offer, would be appropriate. So this led us to create a graduate academy that initially was just in the summer. The format were short courses, 1 to 2 weeks in duration, all roughly about 15 contact hours. Sometimes a mix of, that would be a mix of video as well as in-person engagement. We eventually added a winter version in the middle of the pandemic. I'll say a little bit more about that in a second. The first couple of iterations, everything was predominantly in person. We transitioned along with the rest of higher education remote format.
It appears that Ed is having some connection difficulty at this time. I think what we'd like to do is if we could move on to Sonali at this time and move on to her remarks, and we can return back to Ed. Sonali, welcome to the program. Welcome to the panel and the program. I feel like I'm on television here. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Emily, and the AAU PhD education team for inviting me to share about our work at UVA. I'm Sonali Majumdar. I'm the Associate Director of Graduate Professional Development at the Office of Grad and Postdoc Affairs, which is a unit under the Office of Provost. And I lead development and implementation of UVA's signature program for professional development of our PhD students and postdocs. This program is called PhD+. Next slide, please. I want to provide a quick background about the PhD Plus program to contextualize the skill series that I'm about to talk about. PhD Plus was born out of an institutional award in 2018, and we officially launched the program in January of 2019 to support professional development of our 2,100 PhD students and approximately 450 postdocs who are training across 9 schools in a decentralized university like UVA. Through PhD Plus, our goal is to facilitate success and well-being of PhD students during their training at the university, to prepare them for long-term success in a wide range of careers, as well as more broadly connect PhDs to societal needs. As the schematic in the right shows, intentional and student-centered professional development is built within the architecture of PhD Plus. The offerings that we have in the program map across the life cycle of PhD student, and we meet the students where they're at and offer relevant professional development core modules is what we call these programs at every stage of training. You can read a little bit more about the details of the program philosophy page on the link that Mira would add in the chat in our website. Next slide, please. In terms of the educational capital of PhD Plus, we call these core modules, which fulfill the goal of PhD Plus that I just showed you in the last slide. I created a student-centered strategic framework for professional development that begins with students applying their research methodologies and principles to gaining self-knowledge, to then gaining career education of diverse career paths that PhDs go into, building professional community to inform career interests, as well as inform what skills and experiences are valued in those careers. That would then develop an individual development plan for engagement with different skill series in PhD Plus. Each PhD Plus core module has 3 sequential levels which mirror this framework. The level 1 is career research, which is mostly career panels and information sessions about different career types. The level 2 is skill development series, and level 3 is experiential learning like internship. Each level involves progressively deeper engagement, and we advise students to only participate in specific skill series, level 2 or level 3, after thorough understanding of their learning goals and career interest. You could read about how students can engage with the program through a case study that we've developed on the mechanics page that Mira would drop the link for in a bit. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit more about the level 2 skill series and how we went about developing these. These skill series are theoretical modules to develop skills for both success within a PhD training as well as preparation for a variety of career paths. Similar to courses, they have progression. They can span multiple weeks, ranging from 6 hours in a semester to up to 15 to 20 hours in a semester. Upon successful completion, PhD students are eligible for non-credit credential on their academic transcript. For example, if they completed career design, they will see it as PhD P9100. Students can complete this skill series over multiple semesters, and they receive the credential at the semester of completion. So we don't enroll students beforehand, we only enroll them after they've completed it and give them the credential in that semester. Leveraging collaboration with faculty and staff across campus, we were able to develop as well as bring a lot of the career-related skill series that existed at different parts of the university. You can learn a little bit more about the topics that we cover under each skill series of different core modules by clicking on the core module tab on our homepage of the website. Next slide, please. So while I was talking about the different offerings mapping across the life cycle of PhD training, this slide just gives you a quick glimpse of some of the skill series that we recommend for success within training at UVA, mostly in early years of training for students. These are developed by my colleagues in the Office of Graduate and Postdoc Affairs for the most part. I want to quickly highlight 2 of these series. One is for a foundation series, which is recommended for first and second year students. This actually unpacks the hidden curriculum of graduate school and centers student well-being, giving them a taste of what project management, time management, finance management could look like for thriving within graduate school, as well as topics like resilience, wellness, communication while they are training in the university. The second one I would like to highlight is career design, which is recommended for second and third year students, which introduces the career education and professional development framework that I showed you in a previous slide for diverse careers. And this is where they learn how to strategically engage with the skill series of PhD Plus and walk out with an individual development plan for gathering interest about careers and developing skills for themselves. Next slide, please. After they've gone through career design in the middle years of their training, we've offered a bunch of career-related core modules where they can develop skills and understanding of language used in different sectors for preparing for careers. And these, as you can see, are inclusive of all kinds of careers, from preparing for future faculty careers to teaching careers, to business careers in business consulting, innovation and commercialization, data science, science policy, digital humanities. We've developed these modules more in collaboration and faculty and staff across UVA. Some of them existed prior to PhD Plus, for example, the Praxis program in digital humanities, which we brought under PhD Plus, and the Tomorrow's Professor Today program, which we collaborated to bring under the teaching module of PhD Plus. However, we also developed some few new ones, mostly in the business sector. For example, the Business and Society, we collaborated with faculty members in the Darden School of Business to build that module, as well as the innovation and commercialization. Next slide, please. Over the last 3 years, this is a quick overview of the participation data of the whole program. We've been able to engage with 20 to 25% of individual PhD students in the population who have participated in one or more program each year. Because individual students can participate in multiple core modules, that is reflected in the total engagement, which is a little higher than 25%. As the program grew over the last 3 years, we were able to give out more credentials each year, which rose from 43 students receiving the credentials in year 1 to 193 in the 3rd year, which is still continuing. As you can see with the asterisks, we haven't included data for summer of 2021. So we expect the engagement numbers to go up a little bit in the 3rd year. Also important to point out, in the 3rd year, we transitioned into virtual programs due to the pandemic, and that actually resulted in a rise in total engagement as well as in students completing modules and receiving credentials. Next slide, please. Finally, I want to leave you with some of these faces. In addition to collecting participation data for program assessment reasons, as well as student reflection, we collect and publish stories of student experiences and celebrate students who complete one or more core skill series and call them PhD Plus grads. You can also read about their stories on the PhD Plus Stories tab on our website. That's pretty much what I have for a quick overview of the skills development that we're doing. I'd be happy to talk in 2 weeks about some of the skill series that are translating into 4 credit courses within departments and schools. Thank you again. I look forward to discussing more.
Thank you so much for representing the PhD Plus program, and we look forward to learning more about this work as this program grows. Ed, we have you back on the line. Welcome back. I think we're going to turn back to your remarks at this time before we conclude with Patricia. So Ed, welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much, Emily, and thanks for the, sorry about the interruption there. Was talking about the format for the course and eligibility when my internet interruption occurred. As I mentioned, these are short courses that we are focusing on. And Tara, I think if we could get the PowerPoint back up. Also mentioning that we, although focused initially in the construction of the program on PhD students, had included a wider set of students, which had been, I think, very valuable in giving us a more diverse set of views in each of the courses. Also noted that the instructors had come from both our PhD holding staff and our libraries in interdisciplinary units across campus, as well as some faculty members. Next slide, Tara. Just gives you a sense of the kinds of courses that we've covered. In some cases, those courses, I think, have been really embraced by students right across all of our 55 PhD programs. In other cases, they've been more focused on a division of knowledge. So not too many scientists taking teaching with archives, not too many sociologists taking science communication. But we've really aimed for a mix of courses that would speak to all of our PhD students with attention as well to potential interest from postdocs, masters, and professional students. This has been an evolving process of finding short courses that resonate with our students. We have done surveys in advance of setting our topics to try and identify priorities among Duke students for the Grad Academy. And just here on the right of the screen, you can see a couple of the courses that we have in development already for next year. Next slide, Tara. One of the things we've been really quite pleased about is the extent of engagement from right across our many programs at Duke. There have been, it's been good uptake in our engineering school, from our humanities division, social sciences, perhaps a little bit less engagement from our natural sciences in arts and sciences, but again, significant engagement, especially given the size of the programs from our medical school, environment, and business. Next slide, Tara. We've really tried to emphasize evaluation from the beginning in order to be able to provide feedback to our instructors, but also to inform an evolution of the program. especially with respect to the specific courses that we offer. So we've surveyed students at the end of every session. We've been particularly keen to find out that for a number of our students, what they're doing in these short courses is having an impact not just on things like career discernment, but actually the specific academic intellectual paths that they're taking while at Duke. At UVA, as you've just heard, we've had good uptake from students throughout the time that we've been running the academy, with a very significant bump up during the pandemic, as students, I think, were looking for modes of social connection. And I think as well, there have been some benefits around more flexible access because of the remote mode of instruction. It may also have been the case there that some of our faculty got more creative about modes of instruction. There's been a lot of variety in how our instructors have approached these short courses. Some are mostly discussion-based. Others have involved mini projects, often group projects, or exercises of one kind. And I think that process has been facilitated by the pandemic. Next slide, Tara. So if you'd like more information, you can find it at either one of these links. And I'd be more than happy to take any questions either now or in the breakouts.
Thank you so much, Ed. Yes, if individuals have questions, please put them in the chat. I have some questions that I will be asking of all of our panelists. But at this time, I'd like to turn to Patricia, who is going to provide some details on a more department-focused initiative around professional development. So Patricia, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of AAU for hosting this. It's been really just both influential, I think, and educational over the summer. So as Emily said, my name is Patricia Simpson, and I am sort of in a unique position. I'm actually the Director of Academic Advising and Career Services for the School of Chemical Sciences at Illinois. And we are a very, I guess, career services is offered very broadly and very specifically across our entire campus. So we do have a graduate college, but then a lot of this happens within individual units like mine. So I work with both the departments of chemistry and the departments of chemical engineering. So this course that I'm going to talk about today, or a series of courses, is actually just specific to the Department of Chemistry. Here at the University of Illinois, we have about 300 PhD chemists. And so we have a first-year course that's been required for years and years. And in that course, we focus on technical skills as well as non-technical skills, and I'll break that down on my next slide a little bit more. One of the things, of course, being a career services person, I do talk in that course, but I want more involvement. And so I got together with Dr. Lloyd Munjanja, who is the chemistry department's director for culture and climate. Kind of a mouthful at University of Illinois. We like our long titles, as I know many of our academic institutions do. We also worked with Professor Vanderdonk, who is the director of graduate studies for the chemistry department. The three of us, in putting our heads together, really thought about how can we integrate, not just the first year. Students are getting so much information that first year. So that first year required course is great, but where further along the line can we incorporate some of these concepts, career being one of them, climate being a huge piece. And when we talk about climate, we mean everything from gender harassment and diversity issues to building non-technical skills such as communication and being able to manage your PI. So even though we're very specific, we wanted to be able to help students build some of these additional skills. So with our three of us talking together, we looked at who else could come in and speak to, if we did say a third year, they've passed their preliminary exam. So this is a good time to sort of catch them before they're completely focused on research 100%. So we brought in people like Kate Clancy, who is an anthropologist here on campus, but who has done a lot of research on scientists who are facing gender discrimination, particularly in the field, but she looks at a lot of different areas. Or Dr. Lubansky, who is a specialist from our psychology department and focuses on mediation and conflict and how do you work through those things, because as we know, scientists may have those conflict with each other. And so how can we teach students to be able to build a better climate by learning just how to communicate through conflict. And then Kathy Murphy is the department head, and she has a great session that she's done for years with her own students on managing your PI, teamwork, and other types of communication skills. So we looked at people within our department as well as faculty members outside of our department to bring them into this course. We've also had guest speakers such as Danielle Watt, Kristen Finch, who's actually an alum, Derek Addig, who runs our Graduate College Career Center, to be able to really help add some substance to this course too. So we've got the people in place. We know that this is something that's important because the students are needing to build that. We've also incorporated some activities. Howard Hughes and the University of Illinois have a collaboration called Labs That Work for Everyone, and it's a great resource that you can kind of look through. It's got different modules, so that was a piece that we incorporated into our first year course. Natalie Gilliard put together a game called Factuality. So even though this is a required course or series of courses that we're doing, we wanted to have it be fun too and engaging with students. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, that was not something we could continue. But it's another resource that you all may want to look into. It's not specific to chemists at all. And then T. Wynn is somebody that we're talking to for next year. She has done some Intersect job sims, so that's that career piece. And there's actually a textbook for this course. Actually, we use it for both, and it's called Lab Dynamics, Management Skills for Scientists. And it does talk about some of the things, if you could show the next slide for me, Tara, like both of our first and second year courses cover, such as these here, but it also talks about scientific skills, such as sharing your research and some of the less technical skills too. So I would say the impetus for starting this, like I said, we'd had the first year course for years, and it covered some of these, how do I teach and how do I interact in a lab and so forth, as well as some non-technical skills, just how can I be more civil, and gender and racial harassment or bias, mental health issues, which are a major thing that are impacting graduate students across the country. We also looked at some technical skills, researching, and how can I be a better ethical scientist. We pulled in Derek Addig to talk about building a 5-year plan and doing so intentionally. So we've done these things for years, but then I think the third year course was something that we've recently added. So we've offered that now. This was our past, we do it in the spring of their third year. And so it was the third time we've offered it. We decided as a team to make this a mandatory course. So the first year course is already mandatory. And the reason we did it that way is, unfortunately, we felt like some of the students who maybe most needed some of the skills that we're teaching in these courses weren't availing themselves of those resources. We've offered workshops and different things for a number of years, both at the school level, but also campus level. And so this was something that we specifically felt like we wanted to make mandatory. Ironically, we thought that we would get a lot of pushback when we started that. The only pushback that we did receive was that it wasn't initially in the graduate manual. So we've got a graduate manual. It didn't list this course as being a requirement. So we stepped back and we just offered it optionally for the first couple of semesters. Since our students this past, who are now third years, were part of the graduate manual that says these 2 courses are required, this was our first semester that every student took it. But even before it was required of third years, we had probably 27 to 30 students who opted to take it. Out of, I would say, probably around 50 who, if the course would have been required. So this year was a larger group. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, it made it a little bit more challenging to teach because a lot of this, as I said, is taught in more of a group and almost more of a fun style. So it's not just strictly academic course. Zoom is a little bit harder to do some of that, but we still had pretty good engagement from our students that enrolled in the course. So first year, still focusing on a lot of the same things, the same topics. We pulled in more career preparation and development by the Clifton Strengths and transferable skills and the job sims. And then also a lot more on the community culture climate piece. So having different speakers come in, talking about conflict management, mental health and resilience. We used NIH's format for that, communication, managing up, how do you manage your advisor and so forth. So I know one of the questions that had come up, since it's mandatory, obviously every single faculty bought into it, and that really wasn't the case, because it's important for students to be doing research and to be in the labs, and adding another requirement was a little bit of a challenge. I would say the majority of our faculty were on board pretty early. So we did a number of, every single departmental meeting we would talk about it. Our department head was very much in favor of it, so she also sent out messaging, and that helped a lot. And so right now, like I said, we're moving to 100% mandatory for all students who've completed their third year, and reviews have been really good. Of course, the first 2 times we offered it, students were in the course because they wanted to, but even with the mandatory one, we've had pretty good evaluations from the students. They felt like they've grown and learned things, and they've also found resources to help them, whether they've been bystanders or for their own even mental health or career development. So that's our course, or our 2 courses. The last piece I was going to add is we did have a lot of inquiries from other departments across campus about how can they apply this to their own departments too. So if you'd like to talk more about that, I'd be happy to do so in the breakout sessions.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all the panelists for representing your initiatives and efforts, and how they've been structured, designed, how you've engaged students and engaged faculty. I have a couple questions that I had been reflecting on in the context of your remarks. I'm happy to take questions also coming in that the participants have in the chat. But in each of your comments, and Sonali, you mentioned this, that number of participants were up, and Ed, you referenced kind of flexible access. Are there other elements of your programs that you've learned in the rapid transition to remote instruction and learning and the delivery of these types of programs that you will want to carry forward going into the future, knowing that it really did enrich the program and was something that was an unexpected benefit to the program that you'll want to hold on to?
I mean, I can go first on this. One of the easiest example, I mean, it kind of came together serendipitously. We've been trying for a while for the innovation series. We've been trying to have MBAs and PhDs together because there is a similar startup academy for executive MBAs in the Darden School. And so because of locational preferences, that never kind of happened, but on virtual environment that came together, the instructor was the same. And it was just magical to watch the MBAs and PhDs get to know each other, respect different kinds of thinking and problem solving approaches they bring to a case study. Same thing with business and society, which was a new course that we launched in the pandemic. The faculty members were from the business school, but we were intentionally trying to engage PhDs from very different disciplines. And we got a really good mix of scientists, engineers, as well as humanities and social scientists in the participation group. And those were all flipped classrooms. So they had discussed case studies. Just the richness of the conversation was something that we were blown away by. And I don't think that would have necessarily happen in an in-person due to access, but for the first one, the collaborative aspect of MBAs and PhDs was definitely something that we're going to carry forward in a virtual programming for the innovation series.
Thank you. Ed or Patricia, any additional
in a similar vein, when we were doing the academy in person, we had to find classrooms. There was a rigidity to the times that we could offer, the weeks that we could offer. And with the move to virtual, the flexibility was really appreciated by instructors as well as by students. They could find an offering that really worked for them. And I think it's really facilitated more creativity in how to structure the short course as well, to bring in maybe some asynchronous or flipped elements to the offering. The other idea that's been circulating at Duke that I think is opened up by this is the possibility of maybe partnering with an entirely different university to have a wider array of courses where you could really get the right expertise. And of course you can, in remote, if you have a remote basis to it, that's now feasible in a way that would not have been previously.
Great suggestion, and maybe something AAU could think about helping to support as well. Patricia, any additional thoughts?
Not really. Thank you.
Okay. I do have, if individuals have questions, please put them in the chat. We're looking to monitor that. But my one thing that I acknowledged was that in the design of your program, you are connecting it to larger institutional goals, as well as established programs, and looking for collaborations and synergies. What recommendations would you have for another AAU institution that's thinking of designing some programs to kind of really foster those partnerships and relationships and connections across campus? What would your recommendations be to another campus?
I would say one thing that we have found by reaching out to faculty from different areas is they have the expertise in many cases, and I'm sure all of our campuses are that way. So being able to pull them into our programs has been really helpful. The other thing, I think you mentioned institutional goals. Our goal, being in the Midwest, we aren't as diverse as probably many other campuses. And so really as a graduate program, we seek to make that happen. And so through both at the institutional level, but also at our departmental level, we've definitely seen how this class is able to support that. In fact, this past year, our chemistry program has now got first year students are now more females outnumbering males. But I think part of that has been the focus to support diversity of all different types, not just through admissions, but also through courses like this, where we're changing the climate.
Thank you. No, that directly resonates with AAU's initiative on how do we think about fostering an environment where students can be successful, and what does that climate and culture look like? Ed or Sonali, on recommendations to a campus on really how to think thoughtfully on the alignment and the coordination and the partnerships?
I would say an early step is a very careful inventory. What already exists? What could be adapted into a different format to serve maybe a different group of stakeholders? What's really missing? What might you, what's there but not, people aren't sufficiently aware of it? We did not in the grad academy, for the most part, engage with a lot of core skills around teaching, because we have a robust teaching certificate program in our graduate school. We've looked for places where we could add to that, but we certainly don't see any, there's no point to duplicate what's already available. But you can't know that if you don't do the inventory first.
I echo Ed's point on centralizing and not reinventing or duplicating. One of the things that's been really helpful for us is just generally how this came about. And it benefited a lot from leadership buy-in. And so I talked about the institutional award that we received. PhD Plus was part of a larger grant that the School of Arts and Sciences wrote for Future of Doctoral Education. And this kind of connects to recruitment of diverse students and supporting diverse students. So it's part of a larger university-wide effort and strategy. In fact, our new president wrote in the strategic plan for 2030, the only mention of PhD Plus was extending it specifically for postdocs towards future faculty preparation, as well as career diversity. And so I would really encourage to have more leadership buy-in and funding, extramural or institutional funding that could really help with the sustainability of this.
Thank you. Wonderful recommendations. Before we move to breakouts, just a lightning round response. Key tip for engaging faculty, raising their awareness, or getting their buy-in. What would be your key tip in that area?
I would say engage the leadership at the school level. So PhD, if you have a graduate school, that's a crucial resource. But I think the resource that maybe we don't tap enough is the leadership within the individual schools where the programs reside.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, we've taken a similar approach, and thanks to the AAU program, we've been able to benefit from that in really talking to directors of graduate studies and connecting with faculty through faculty meeting or otherwise through emails at departments through the directors of graduate studies.
Yeah, I would say two things: communicate early and often. And again, we work with scientists, and so they wanted to see numbers. And so being able to demonstrate the benefit and how that this actually does have not just a take the class now, but a longer term impact on students' success, both in and outside of the lab, has been really helpful too.
Thank you. Obviously, robust conversations when you get swept out of breakout rooms and people are in mid-sentences. So I'm sorry for anyone that was in the middle of articulating a thought. If you'd like to finish it in the chat, feel free. But thank you for taking the time to engage with our panelists in the breakout room conversations. We hope you got your questions answered. This session will be recorded and posted online along with the slides and the resources that we have collected from our panelists and those shared in the chat. And we encourage you to distribute that more broadly with colleagues on your campus or at other universities. Coming up next week, we have a session on fostering alumni and department program engagement. And we look forward to inviting a selection of panelists from institutions that will talk about how they're engaging alumni with their doctoral students. And the next session in July will be focusing on mentors for PhD students, how to expand those mentoring doctoral students beyond their primary faculty advisor. So we welcome you and your colleagues to subsequent conversation series over the summer, and we thank you for participating in today's conversation. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.